Yeah, welcome to this episode of the NerdBrand Podcast. I'm your host, Jason. We're here with Michaela, and we're here with John, and we don't have our Mitch because Mitch is taking care of a sick puppy, or he's at Oaks. We're kind of like on a coin I can't even talk.
Coin cost.
See, this is what happens when we don't have a Mitch. So
worst things happen.
Yeah, worst things happen.
They're coming.
Yeah. Anyways, so this episode we're talking about, it's a sales tip series, and it's part one, and it's talking about 2022 challenges that marketers will have. Or I know that's not how I worded it on the papers because I did that like I don't know an hour ago, but yeah, I just kind of
you don't have to tell on yourself all the time.
It's part of the entertainment. You can pull the curtain back just a little bit, but John is wearing pants. We'll do that. We'll say that. That's
maybe.
That's see, and then that's where
it's an optical illusion.
Yeah, it's an illusion. Oh man, I'm gonna read through this list, and you all tell me if you agree, disagree, strongly agree.
Strongly disagree with everything.
Okay, well,
just kidding.
There we go. John's way ahead. Maximizing performance across channels.
Oh, I thought you were reading the whole list. My bad.
I am. I'm going to, but not at
but
once.
Like one by one.
Yeah, just one by one.
That they're a challenge for marketers.
Yeah, the challenges for marketers in 2022, maximizing performance across channels.
I'm surprised that's at that low of a percentage. I would say that's the challenge of business overall.
Yeah, it's also I'm surprised it's like number one.
Yeah,
in the list was one. There's 7 of these in total for those listening and watching, but it's like 1 through 7, and that's the first one.
I would swap it with number 4 because that's I don't know. They kind of go hand in hand. We'll get to number 4.
Yeah, so maximizing. So about 38% of marketers feel like that's the challenge they have. Ability to change and adapt to circumstances as they arise. 36% of marketers.
I think everybody's just giving up. Honestly,
I quit.
After the past 2 years, I think everybody's just kind of like,
There has been I've noticed a drop in just people involved in the industry in marketing. Like somebody said to me a few weeks ago that there's a lot of people that are in marketing just exiting marketing. And I kind of feel like that's kind of true. I don't know if they've all found jobs or not, but I'm not seeing a whole lot posted online anymore for marketing coordinators or just anything related to that other than a marketing director, which we still see that big bucket of responsibilities.
There's been a lot of, I think, TikTok kind of reinvigorated the social media hiring because I see a ton of social media jobs and social media manager, social media coordinator. I don't see as much, like you said, like just general roles, but and I don't see a lot of like paid media specialists or things like that that would be managing Google ads and whatnot.
Yeah. I think that's why number 1 kind of sticks out because these are all channels and you can't just run on one channel. Mm-hmm. We talked about that in the last episode about you have to have a multi-channel approach, and without that as a philosophy, then you're just kind of pouring money into this one thing, but you're not really hitting your wide audience or maybe at all. Mm-hmm. Delivering exceptional customer experiences. 35% of marketers struggle with that. That stuck out to me because I don't see a marketer customer experience or service. Like they're kind of the people that are in cubicles in that back room,
They're the great and powerful Oz. They're the behind the curtain.
Right.
Whereas your customer service people, they're delivering.
Yeah. I mean, when I worked at I won't say who it is, but we had a whole floor of customer service people. And it was like 2 floors down. That's where all the marketing people were, the web developers, the creatives, everybody was down there. You didn't want to put any of those people on the phone with the customer.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's connected, but I think there's a little bit of difference between the customer experience versus just service. Like customer service to me is part of customer experience, but it's like the front lines of customer experience where the overall customer experience. If I say customer experience one more time, we might have some sort of I don't know.
We could put
aneurysm.
a timer on there, like we can do like Cinema Sins, where it's like ding. It's like how many times does that happen? Ding.
I'm gonna say it again, but I think customer experience is broader than that. Is it funny, Jason?
It is funny. Now
well,
that you mentioned
I was trying to think of another word, but
It doesn't.
It's too early in the morning.
Yeah.
You guys get it.
Aligning. Now, this is the one that John and I always kind of harp on because, and I think it's probably the dynamic. One of the dynamics of our relationship is that he is in marketing and I'm in sales. How the heck that happened, I don't know. Because I'm a web guy and I don't talk to people. I'm not supposed to, But aligning marketing and sales efforts, 32% of marketers struggle with that. Man, honestly, we've done shows on this before. Mm-hmm. We'll probably do some more in the future, but yeah, with the misalignment of, when sales drops, marketing gets yelled at, and it's just, there's this constant fight between the two. And we've always said as a brand agency that, it's the formula is missing a component. Mm-hmm. It's, messaging plus consistent marketing equals consistent sales. It's not sales, marketing, and then, what are we saying?
Right. There's that. I think that they just aren't in the room together enough. I mean, I think that's one thing that we've been intentional about is over communicating, even if we're not in the room quite as much because we're remote, is over communicating like what you're hearing out there and what you're saying to other people so that we can make sure that gets looped back around in content, social, podcasts,
Because Mitch is like, he's not in sales, so he's always in the room, and he and I have almost what sounds like arguments or mom and dad fighting, but it's really like me reminding him, like, the words, and what this means, and what should happen, but everybody else is like, derp, derp, derp. Nobody knows. Like, they're just trying to figure out how to make a hire. They're trying to figure out, like, why are people buying blue and not the red bottle caps? I mean, they don't really. There's other things going on in the business owner's mind.
Mitch knows his role. He always says it. He tap dances well. You and I.
Well, it's just when it's just between us. Like when in a room with a customer or prospect. Yeah, totally different. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's always kind of funny because he'll spin out message like, you got to work on your message, and I tried like the first 6 months. Meeting him, I was like, nobody knows what that means. Their brain is going to like, text messaging, their email, like, what do you mean message? And so it took a while to kind of get him to realize if you think you've dumbed it down, then you haven't dumbed it down yet. Mm-hmm. Okay. Probably, yeah. I'll say that again. If you think you've dumbed it down, you have not dumbed it down yet. And that's always been a struggle with us because we've done this for so long and we say it and then we think we've got it explained to where it's very elementary. It's actually not. It's still very confusing and very foggy.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah. Anyway, segmenting. This is going to be one for you, John, because this was an outcry of iOS and email, I think. But segmenting and targeting audiences, 32% of marketers. Now, this is a percentage, by the way, before you answer. This is a percentage, by the way, that I thought would be much higher because of that issue with technology. But segmenting and targeting audiences, 32% of marketers feel like that's a challenge.
I mean, I would think it'd be higher. I think people are going to feel it more in 2022. Excuse me.
He feels it now. That's why it happened.
I do. I feel the allergies. No, I think people are going to feel the outcomes of not being able to do what they were doing in Facebook and other places. And once cookies go away, it's just going to be a madhouse. And as a marketer, I'll just be transparent. I don't really have a plan,
How can you?
That's the thing. And that's why I think that there's a lot of people who are aware that that's coming, but they haven't really felt it yet. So they don't feel like it's a challenge, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Google's talked about killing the cookie for a long time, moving to browser ID, and then a lot of technologies and advertising that are way more expensive now are related to device and its ID. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a serialized number that every device has, and it's unique to every device. So if you target that, years ago, it's called audience targeting. It was like the elite it was a thing that they sold, socialized healthcare, in my opinion, with Obamacare or Affordable Care Act. That's what I was looking for. Anyway, sold that a lot.
What the hell are you talking
Political
about?
ads. Audience targeting was used. Audience targeting was used for that.
Gotcha,
yeah.
Gotcha.
And so because government people like that have the money to spend on it because, if you didn't have $10,000 a month per campaign,
yeah,
who's got that kind of money in small business?
Mm-hmm.
So it took a few years to kind of start seeing IP and geofencing and all these others that kind of came, I think, out of that because who wouldn't want to hit that device? So, for example, with audience targeting, we would always call it like a sniper approach. So if you're, you go to Paris, France for vacation, you're still getting the Kroger from your zip code ads on your phone, the display ads, even though you're not in that country.
Right.
Geofencing, of course, kind of obviously you went into the fence, you exited the fence, and then this happens. We've got a post on our site talking about retargeting. That's very important. That's where it kind of gets into play. But those technologies seem to be,
That post is not something I would rely upon in about a year. But it's something to read to understand where we're still there for right now.
Yeah, because that's where most of the return I think is on that, which is why I think when you say you don't have a plan, I'm like that's really the kind of fallback. It's like if that's not happening, then you just kind of the money you just threw it in the wind.
Mm-hmm. I think the other challenge with that one is jumping into it too soon, which is gonna be hard to do it the way we're doing it now, as cookies go away and as the platforms in iOS kind of destroy everything. Just put it bluntly. But a lot of people, I think, look at Google Ads and they look at digital ads or advertising in general, and they think, well, I got to hit my target like from the get go, and you're just making an educated guess, if that, instead of kind of starting broad, making sure that the message is solidified, and then narrowing in as the data comes back. That's the approach, and I think a lot of people will start Google Ads and be like, well, I need 35 to 45-year-olds, people who make this household income, and it's like, you can kind of block it off a little bit at the start, but you don't want to try to get that narrow that quickly.
It's always fickle too. You never know whenever trends are going to change too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when I open up Google AdWords, because I'm not the paid ad guy, obviously, in the team, but I know that if I get overwhelmed, everybody else does too. But what scares me is which other business owners are way more braver than me, because they actually go in and they throw their credit card in there and they start running ads, and I'm just looking at it going like, oh, I don't know about if I want to do this yet. Let me try these other organic channels that I know how to manipulate. Let me do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're free. It's just, you go with what you know. And I think paid advertising is like that first lever to pull. And to your point, like you shouldn't do that. You should like the strategy, plan and all that. Plan and strategy are different, in my opinion. So you have to really think about like what's going to work for whatever it is you're trying to advertise. There is I've had conversations with others before about impatience in the market, and there's a lack of it, and wanting an immediate return, and it doesn't happen. I just don't see that ever. It took us 2.5 years to get to where we are. People look at us and go like, how'd y'all do that? And I'm like, we've been doing it for about 2.5 years.
I think that's a thing in the business world in general, the myth of overnight success. I just looked up just randomly, wanted to see when Shopify was founded, and it's 2006. But the last 3 years, that's when they became a household name. If they're probably still not there. Look at Netflix; they're a 30-year-old company.
Yeah, they lost a lot of shares, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!"
Right, it's been around forever. They didn't, get their fame until 20 years after they had worked their butts off. So, but I think on the segmenting and targeting audiences thing too really plays into as a brand, you have to have that umbrella message, right? And that stays pretty much the same across all your segments. It should. The essence of your brand shouldn't change based on who you're targeting. But at the advertising level, you can start to segment. And I think that's another, not a misunderstanding, but just like I don't know. It's just an ignorance, I think, among business folks and even among marketers, that philosophy of like, you don't segment at the brand level.
No, you can't. Yeah. There's a recognition that you have to maintain. When we set up a brand and create a brand and standardize things, we're not telling anyone that you can't be creative. We're just telling you that this message resounds strongly with the people that we have either interviewed, talked with, or the owner themselves and aligns with their personal story or business story. Deviating from that at that core level, it's like cutting a tree at the base and not trimming it in the branches. Your marketing, you could have several campaigns running. I told somebody at an event, Michaela, we were there. I told them, like, we had 7 campaigns running for a particular person, and the reaction was like, Jesus. I was like, yeah, you can do that because, like you just said, John, and it's a really good way to put it. Like, this is what it is, but then to hit these audiences, you can use this messaging that all applies to that. I mean, it just leads all back to it. Like for us, it's always everything's an ad. That's always been our core and will be, is that everything is an ad because we like helping people better communicate why they exist and why you think customers should buy from you. Like, it's a very hard thing to do. Just open up a profile that's about you and just start typing. Dare you. You'll be watching that cursor blink for at least a few minutes. It's a hard thing to do to talk about yourself. It's a hard thing to do to describe your story. And then when business owners start to, they realize they're not doing the job for us, but they've given us what we need to help shape that, because we don't want to create a robot. We don't want to create scripts. We're just saying, like, did you mean? We're kind of echoing back.
Yeah.
And then that's very useful for them to kind of understand when they go back out and communicate to their sales teams and their marketers. Oh, that's what we're advertising. Oh, that's how we should be talking, and that's who we should be approaching. That's the magic of that. Number 6 on the list is ability to scale programs, content, personalization. I'm kind of like, So
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I guess I get ability to scale content. The ability to get content produced. I mean, that is a challenge. To get good content at a high, frequency is a big challenge, and the payoff is not nearly what it used to be either, because there's so many people producing high volumes of really good content. I think his name's Mark Schaefer. He coined the term content shock, and it's just the fact that no matter what you do, like getting in the Harvard Business Review doesn't mean you're actually going to gain any traction anymore, because there's so many people in publications like that, or writing the absolute best blog post on a particular topic. Okay, so did 6 other people. So it's different compared to what it was in 2014 or 2015 when these things weren't as hot and there wasn't nearly as much content going out. You could pretty well rank for anything if you wrote a really good piece of content.
Yeah. I mean, from a search perspective, it's like you look at the engine and you go like, okay, what's open for me to take advantage of, essentially, broadly saying. But then no one thinks like, wait, does anybody care?
Pretty much.
There's terms that I come across and I still look at the volume of searches per month and they're like less than 100. And I'm like, well, this is a vanity thing. This is not this doesn't lead to business. This doesn't lead to conversion, And I think the lines of conversion have gotten a little blurry with content and how it's used to do that. It's like
it's changing, I would say. It used to be more gated. Let's get email signups, and that's a lead. Well, no, it's not. It's just an email sign up.
Yeah. Do any of y'all subscribe to any sort of content online, paid or other?
I mean, I'm on lists. I don't really want to be.
Same. The number of junk mail that I get that I just unsubscribe. The only thing that I really keep is like gym membership stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there are deals going on. Like things that are now pertinent to me. Like you said, things change.
I've subscribed to things that I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely read this. And
then after a while, you
recipes.
just change your mind. It just no longer is pertinent. And then there's
and it doesn't mean the content's bad either. Like there's a newsletter called Charter, I think. CHARTR. I mean, it's got great content. Anytime I do take the time to read it, I'm like, that's cool. It's kind of a morning brew, but it's very data specific and a lot of graphs and charts and stuff that about just pop culture and issues going on. And so I do check that out every now and then, but even that's a tough sell. I think there's just so much. Again, there's so much content. There's so much stuff being thrown at everybody. Even a really good consistent effort may not be good enough still.
Yeah. The other one, the last on the list, is proving marketing attribution and ROI. Well,
Just give up.
there, you heard it here, everyone.
I mean, I get the business owner in me is like, definitely we need to do that. The marketer in me is like, we can be way more effective if you guys just stop worrying about that.
Mm-hmm.
The ROI will come if you focus on the customer and the story, and you really put the effort into that versus data analysis. And don't expect your marketer to do the data analysis. Hire a data analyst if that's what you want. Because I've been in that seat a few times with especially e-commerce clients, and it's like I'm not a data analyst. I can't look at 6,000 entries in a spreadsheet and know what to do with it. That's not the job of a marketer necessarily.
No, that's something that I can do because I know how to look for patterns and connect things to other things, but I don't want to do it because it's mentally exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a time sink. It's someone's job is what it is.
Yeah, it is. It's mentally exhausting. But I think that it's interesting that some of these graphics we'll try to hopefully I'll send them to you, Robert, and you can put them into the show on the video. But successful marketing organizations, 35% sales revenue attributed to marketing, 31% customer lifetime value, 30% cost per acquisition. That's a big one that nobody thinks about. Like, how much does it cost you to get a lead and then lead them to a convert? Yeah. All other marketing organizations, I don't know what these titles or why they did it this way, but marketing ROI 42%, and then sales and revenue attributed to marketing 37%. So you start looking at that. And by the way, we'll post all of this on YouTube in the description below with the link to the Search Engine Journal article for this comes from. When you look at that, you're like, yeah. So when businesses complain about revenue and they're not doing any advertising and marketing, I think there's your answer.
Also, if you look at it, the extremely successful, however they define that, they're not focused on ROI. Mm-hmm. They're focused on alignment of sales and marketing. They're focused on something higher up from ROI, from that bottom line. That's what's going to get you your results, is actually focusing on the alignment of your message, of your sales team, and your advertising tactics. Mm-hmm. Not just looking at data and saying, oh, let's reverse engineer it backwards. There's room for that, but it's not like you're not. If you go straight down that path, you're leaving no room for organic intuition, human.
Yeah,
human
data
experience.
still can be subjective depending on it. I mean, it's very not as wide as looking at a painting and you think it's cool and I think it looks like somebody's hot garbage on a canvas. But at the end of the day, it's data. There's a post I did a while back from Dry Bar, a comedian, and gets up and he's kind of like that thing I've talked about it before, where the data shows that 1 out of 4 children born could be Chinese. And then that means okay, so really that's what it boils down to? Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to be surprising to a couple that's not Chinese.
Right. If they have 4 kids, especially.
Yeah, 1 of 4 born. How did that happen? I don't know.
It's just statistics.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, how useful is that data? How interpretive is it? It's there's nearly not. And the other graph we have is at the top of the list is all about data. It's all about which marketing solution can you absolutely not live without. And customer data platform is at the top, and then right underneath that, same percentage rate, 36%, email marketing platform. So marketers are looking at that going I need these. Mm-hmm. And then below that is a content management system, 32%. I wonder how many of those are WordPress. I'm just saying.
31.
Yeah. Well, it occupies a large market share and a large part of the internet. And then what surprised me is to see marketing automation platform, because honestly, I've used them. I know 3 of them. I know how to use them, but that's not since 2018 maybe. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of surprised to see that one at the top.
Me too. I don't really know what they're referencing. I mean, I guess a Marketo.
Well, marketing automation?
Yeah.
More like a HubSpot, Active Campaign.
See, I mean, I look at
That's what I look at.
I get it. Yeah, I look at those as CRMs, like, but I guess they do a lot more.
Well, they have that's the thing that fools everybody. It's like the CRM. There's a lot of talk about CRMs right now because everybody thinks that's another gateway for improvement of sales or improvement of customer retention, acquisition, whatever the need is. They're looking at that as their savior, just like they would look at geofencing once upon a time as their savior. It's not one thing. That tool, first of all, your salespeople ain't going to use it. I mean, I know we're going to have a meeting later between the three of us. So don't freak out. I am going to listen and be there and pay attention to both of you because they're going to be like, Jason, we need you to look at that. But salespeople are not archivists. They are not data entry people. Right. They're not historians. We just, I hate to say it. I know it sounds really terrible, but we're like moving. So there's no time. So if 80% of the job is admin and 20% is sales, how do you think things are going to look in a company from a revenue standpoint in 6 months? Because the sales cycle now has increased dramatically with businesses and with sales teams. We used to see conversions within 60 days. Now they went to 90. Now it's like 6 months. It feels like it's like, and with inflation.
It used to be quite linear as well. A little bit. Not entirely. But now it's just like, all right, let's get to the proposal stage, and then like, hold up, we gotta go back and do this or that. It used to be, and when I say used to be, I'm talking like pre-2020, or right at the beginning of 2020.
The nugget of that you can take away from this is like a CRM is not going to save you. What's going to save you is developing a strong lead generation process and applying it, training your team on it, and following it. Not sales process, but lead gen process, and what's included in that, the tactics that you do. Because the CRM is just tracking after the fact.
Right.
It might be able to do some forecasting, but forecasting is like trying to tell the weather in the Ohio Valley. It just is. It's tough. I try to do that financially for our company, and I'm just like, well, it looks like we're good in 6 months, and then something happens in Ukraine, and things are different. You have to pivot.
Right.
So you have to be like, that's why I look at the whole thing with CRMs coming up. It can show you patterns. It can show you like what has worked and what hasn't worked, but you understand it's because you've already done something. We live in the area before that, so that you're not exercising all of this time, because I have seen, and I know anything, Robert in the booth shaking his head, yes, because there's been a lot of activity, a lot of meetings, a lot of how you doings, and a lot of what you does abouts at coffees. And after that, you're like, well, I don't know if I made a friend or not. You're just kind of wondering like, what was that for? Right. And that was an hour out of your day plus 30-minute commute both ways now. And you're just like, well, there was 2 hours burnt out of my day.
There's also the mental aspect of it besides just the raw time of like, well, I should have said this, or I probably could have made something of that, or I wish I could have helped them, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So a CRM is not going to save you. It is not. I'm not bashing it saying you shouldn't use it. Everyone should have one. Most of them are free. HubSpot's free. Use it. Does just fine. But depending on your organization, if you're in manufacturing or other areas, I can see it being a different need and more customized. But essentially, that looking at a CRM is to save you. It's only as good as the data that's going into it, and most of that data is going to be manually done, not automated.
Right.
So marketing automation tools, they lend to that data going in automation, hence the term automation. But you still have to create flows. You still have to create pathways that are not just if this happens, then that. It has to be more sensitive to behavior, which I always liked ActiveCampaign, frankly, because I think they did a better job at like graphically displaying that for a marketer, because the marketer just wants to get crap done. They don't really understand the why. They don't need to know why that happened or that action occurred. HubSpot's a little vague. It's also very expensive. Infusionsoft, now called Keep, is another one. But if you look at this list, email marketing platform, you can do all of that with email marketing, with a really good email marketing platform. And by that, I don't mean MailChimp. Yeah, I say that quietly just in case.
I've been having to use it more lately. They've improved a little bit, but still, I think to your point, the segmenting is difficult. Setting up those flows is still difficult in MailChimp because it's not visual. I think ActiveCampaign is similar to Klaviyo in that you get that. What we looked at yesterday is this visual map of the flow chart, and that's what's really that's what makes sense.
Yeah. I always looked at it like when I looked at for those listening and watching, ActiveCampaign to me is like I love it because I like the visuals too. It looks like I'm pathing out, and I'm not a sports ball person, but it's like when you see the X's and O's on a football chart, and they're like, this is going to happen, and they're going to go here, and they're going to go there. They do a really good job showing you of like where this X is going to end up with that O. HubSpot, you're just kind of like, I don't think that's going to happen to work out. So yeah, there's some deficiencies, but it depends on what you're proficient in and what you like.
Right. It's kind of like Shopify, WordPress. It's like, I'm sure HubSpot can bend a lot more than ActiveCampaign, maybe because it is so open versus, WordPress and Shopify. Shopify can't bend, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, I get questions because of being in web. They're like, can you integrate the CRM with my website? And I'm like, the web is made of forms. So yeah,
we can do it.
It's not pertinent to the platform.
Right.
I know it looks like it does, but if you're trying to like slap, hard code into a content editor, then yeah, you're going to have problems because it's a content editor. It's meant for words, not code. But yeah, that's typically what happens and why that goes awry. And people are like, well, WordPress doesn't do that. Well, do it in a template. Code it. Get a guy like me and we'll code it, put it in there, and it is a thing now. But that's integration. Of course, it costs money. I know, it costs money. Sorry, my time. I'm not going to apologize for that. But yeah, it can be done. I've had several people with different CRMs now approach me because of that. Like, hey, can you integrate that? Yep. That's kind of where I leave the conversation. Yep. Yep.
Pretty much everything has a plugin. Anything that's worth using, I think, either has an app or a plugin.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, you probably picked the wrong piece of software. They're probably still very early in their development if they're not integrated with WordPress and Shopify.
Yeah, but like HubSpot, when you apply HubSpot, the beacon to the site, you've got like, it reads all the forms. It doesn't matter if it's a comment form or a lead form. It picks it up and shoves it into the system. That's HubSpot doing that. So you just have to put the code on there or install the plugin. I mean, that's it. So, people are kind of like amazed by that. And I was like, I know it sounds like wizardry, and it kind of is, but it can be done. But anyways, that's pretty much it for this show, unless you guys got something you want to share.
I thought that there was an interesting thing with number 6 on our previous list was the ability to scale personalization. And then you get over to marketing automation. And that's what's going to allow you to scale personalization, because even things like dynamic website content, because I know that's what like Marketo and some of the other automation platforms are big on, is swapping out certain content on your homepage based on that user's activity. I don't know how they are planning to do that after cookies, but
like the way, I won't say, but like the way that I've been doing it this past week. I mean, looking at
a little more manual.
Yeah.
You
got to be there. You got to do it. You can't.
Yeah, but you can't segment like Marketo. You can go in and it looks at the individual user and it shows them a particular graphic versus you just swapping things out, and anybody who hits your site is coming in. So I'm like looking at those, and it's saying that's a challenge, and I guess, but it doesn't look like automation platforms are quite as important as. There's a little confusion there.
Yeah, because WordPress pages are they're actually classified as pseudo-dynamic, which means you can edit them, you can change the layout, the copy, whatever, and you do that, but you have to do that with that in mind, like what is happening. And I had like 4 tabs and things open. Google Analytics was one of them, but the other 4 were not. And to determine whether or not do I need to change how this content flows, not necessarily rewrite every paragraph. Because that didn't happen. If it did, John would yell at me because he's like, "There's some periods here that don't belong. What's going on?" Because I ain't a copywriter, but I do know how the key terms need to be distributed across the page, and that has to be something that has to be looked at as well for it. But also, they might care about that content. They might care about these pages, and you're not gonna really. That's where I think the personalization is like you start to go like, well, if they really care about this, why isn't this more prominent?
Yeah.
So, definitely. Anyways, if you've enjoyed this episode or have any comments, be sure to like, subscribe, go to YouTube, search for NerdBrand, and do that. We appreciate all the subscribers that are out there. You can find us everywhere on the internet, on socials at NerdBrand Agency is our handle, and you can go to nerdbrandagency.com/podcast and see the latest episode. Like, subscribe there. Go to Spotify, Apple, like all of them. You'll find them all there. I want to thank all of our listeners, and so that I don't get yelled at, we're closing out the show and telling you remember to keep your nerd brand strong.